Sure. I think we're on the comments from 11:20. Lauren submitted a couple pages of comments.
11:20. Okay, all right. I think that's, oh, let me share my screen here, excuse me.
Item 1 talks about some of people not being on a distribution list. So that one's for you, Mary Ann. Item 2, Lauren believes that only tangible benefits should be considered and not contributions. And he goes on to say, simply having a view of the lake is not a tangible benefit. And there's some other things that he believes the Board of Appraisers can't legally change with regard to the RCWs, including current use lands and those being exempt from benefit assessments. And we've covered that earlier. That's under legal review. And he says that a legal determination needs to be made. So I think we're in agreement there that we're going to find out. He doesn't believe that we should be making comments on existing or future district projects, and that we weren't aware of a large state grant the district received, and that they're not in our scope of work, and that, you know, may very well be not in our scope of work. I don't know, there's a comment there of possible unduly influenced. You know, I don't feel like we're being unduly influenced by anybody.
If we're influenced by anyone, it's by reading these things.
Right.
Yeah. Reading the comments.
He understands that taxes will be higher as a result of this process.
Why is that? I don't understand that.
Well, it depends. If you're paying 0, then maybe your assessment might be
I
higher.
think he's got taxes and assessments confused.
Maybe. I mean, it's hard to.
So just,
I mean, all we're doing is we're taking the total budget and allocating it amongst people, trying to do it as fairly as possible.
Right.
We're not
and it has nothing to do with taxes.
doing anything with values,
Correct.
nothing with taxes. We're not, all we're doing is allocating. And there seems to be a lot of confusion on this from people. It's a theme, a consistent theme.
Your points are well taken. I will add that it may be that some people that don't have assessments may have assessments now. Some that were higher, maybe lower. Some that were lower, maybe higher. We don't know until the final process is done. So all we're doing is trying to help split the pie and figure that out. So we're not here to drive tax rates or influence property taxes in any way.
So I would like to talk to the scope of work issue. Lauren, I can't tell if this is a new comment or a comment that I've read already in the past, but I've seen this comment before. It essentially says, you guys don't know what your scope of work is. You don't know what you're supposed to be doing. Well, that's true. When we started this, we didn't know what we were supposed to be doing. And we asked, and we asked, and we asked, or I did at any rate, and I got very oblique answers, very little in the way of details. I really feel like I was in the dark, feeling around with my hands, trying to get my arms around it. With the last couple of sessions, I feel like that's gotten cleared up. And I don't think it's gotten cleared up in the public meetings I think it's gotten cleared up in the executive meetings, executive sessions. And one of the things that's an example of that is them saying that they've got to go to the Attorney General to get a legal opinion. Those kinds of experiences have defined what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And no one told us or could tell us, one of the two, on the front end. So we had to rummage about,
Mhm.
trying to figure it out.
Agreed. Dennis submitted another comment on 11/29. And I think Gary made a comment about a front foot value on the lake of $100. And Dennis may have misheard that. He thought that that number was too low. And I think what Gary was saying at that point was there is a certain value. It may not be $100 a foot, or it may be $100 a foot. He was just stating a unit value for that part of the property is applied to the parcel. Would you agree?
Yeah, when I talked to the assessor, he said, take for example, if
Okay.
the waterfront is at $100 a foot, then the back portion would be valued at $50 a foot.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was just an example of it had nothing to do with reality.
And it looks like he submits a number of properties with certain examples. He's wanting to talk about transparency of executive sessions. There's some communication with he and the county on certain issues of transparency. And he notes that our findings, our recommendations, and that anything that gets passed ultimately has to go before the Board of County Commissioners, and that's how we understand it as well.
Do you think he's thinking that we have something to do with transparency?
I think he's commenting mostly on perhaps we're not being given all the information we need, and there might be some roadblocks along the way that he's experienced, and perhaps we should watch out for, is what I get out of this.
Okay.
And then it goes back to talking about fair and equitable issues include using market value in calculations, place the value of the structure in the location which they are located, rather than averaging values, and then use the actual market value of any sub-parcels in split classifications. I think we've covered those topics many times before, and I think our results are going to include all of those issues. He has a concern about incorporating the areas that get flooded in the case of a flood or a dam breach. I'm not sure. We talked about those areas that are flooded and run over the dam. We've covered that today. I don't know about a dam breach. Maybe that's something we'll need to talk about, but not sure what he's getting at now.
We do, I can maybe add a little bit to that. We do have dam breach studies. I'm not sure, they may not have been in your original packet of material, but I can get those to you if you like. Or at some point when I'm prepared, maybe give you a little background on it as well.
Is he inferring that if the dam were to breach, it would flood an area bigger than what would naturally otherwise be flooded, and therefore those parcels should be included as part of protection and a benefit from having the dam there?
I guess says what he says, but it is true that if the dam were to breach, it would be slow, but it would flood probably more than just a regular, normal flooding event. So, and those areas down below the lake would flood significantly.
So when I was asked questions earlier, trying to figure out which portion of the properties below the dam were likely to could flood, maybe I asked the question the wrong way. So maybe I should have asked the question, if there's a dam breach, will those areas, the hatched areas that are in a FEMA Zone A, would those properties be likely to flood then?
Yes, those areas are going to flood as well, just even more so. Because you think about it, a dam breach is a more sudden release of water. Although it does take time for it to get down there, it's going to be more than just an event, a normal event where, the facilities are working.
How long has the dam been there?
Hard to know exactly. It is in its modern form since late 1970s, but it was probably in there in some form, even going back again to the turn of the last century.
I see. Has there ever been a breach of the dam?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are there any dangers that are?
It did actually
being
come close.
assessed?
We had to sandbag it because it's low in some spots. We had to sandbag it in 2017, and actually it was sandbagged in 97 as well to keep it from overflowing and potentially breaching.
So it seems like somewhere along the line, maybe when we were on the tour, I heard talk about the fact that it was fairly permeable, and there was talk about helping it. I don't know whether to say make it taller or make it more permeable.
Well,
less permeable.
The difficulty is that because there's such a 25 plus feet of peat in that area, you can't build it out of anything too much more than just the peat, at least easily, to really bring it up to more design standards. The Dam Safety Office design standards would be millions and millions of dollars. Would probably require piling or sheet piling and significant effort. So actually what we're considering right now is some sort of a decommissioning process for the dam. We're working with Dam Safety to get their approval on it, and we're in the midst of that process. And then what we would have is we wouldn't necessarily have control with the dam. We would be using the outlet gate to control the lake level. And then those areas below, those fields below the lake would probably be less protected in that instance.
the elevation of the lake? Um, Obviously fluctuates. Help me out with that. Is
Right, so the lake level normally fluctuates between about 21, 25.6, which is the normal we call Memorial Day high or early summer high elevation. And the winter low is 21, 23.9. That's now there's some fluctuation of that because of weather events or something, but that's the normal goal.
still quite a bit below 2130.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, let me clarify that because I'm used to working in two different datums. So the numbers that I just gave are based on the gauge and they're in the old datum. So let me convert that for you. So it would be about 2130 based on the contours, almost 2130, 29.6 based on the contours that are on the map that we showed.
And
Would be the normal summer high or early summer high.
May high.
Right.
Or Memorial Day high.
Correct.
And the top of the dam is
The top of the dam is under, okay, so the 100-year flood elevation is 2131. And the top of the dam is less than that. We don't have exact elevations, but it's maybe at least 6 inches or more below that.
so each spring the water is within a foot of the top of the dam.
Close to that, yes.
And does the dam leak continuously?
Yeah, it's more of a seep than like a leak because it's just kind of permeable material.
Is the water on the other, is the land on the downstream side of the dam soggy to walk through?
Oh, never walked through it, but I suspected it is.
So decommissioning to me sounds like take the dam out.
Right, but even the natural right now we're looking at bringing it down to let's see, what would it be? It's about 2130 in the current datum. So it's not like I'd have to go back and look again at the numbers. I'm trying to pull numbers off the top of my head, and that's probably not the best thing to do, but
Yeah.
I can get you some more detailed information on what that dam breach analysis showed and what the current proposal is for the Dam Safety Office.
So at different times in my life, I've been exposed to people that decided they want to build a pond. And they lined the pond with clay so that it won't leak. Has that kind of alternative been explored, lining the dam?
Well, it's not just the seepage, it's the structural integrity of it. So in other words, just the liner wouldn't necessarily affect that. Yeah.
So I know that with some structures that having it be flexible means it bends but doesn't break. Is that sort of the situation with the dam? That because it's a little bit permeable, that it's not likely to wash away?
Yeah, peat's a weird kind of material, and we're not exactly sure how it would go, and that's some of the difficulty too in the modeling is, and they kind of use kind of standard kind of conditions when they're doing the dam breach analysis. So
So the concern is that the lake gets full enough that it breaches in one particular point, and that starts the erosion of the dam at that.
Correct.
Kind
Exactly.
of like Orville down in California.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, fortunately, it's not quite as drastic here because, you don't have that height difference that you envision with a normal dam. So the flood elevate and it takes a while to make its way down the channel, on the order of days before notice that you get before it starts actually flooding the people down along Trent.
Well, I think I've asked all the questions I can think of to ask about that.
Okay, Brian, you want to continue?
I think Dennis goes on to talk about water quality, and he believes that without question, there's a benefit to the surrounding area and the entire watershed that their stormwater runoff goes into the lake. I think we've had discussions about this, whether it's stormwater, septic system, whatever runs into the lake. To me, I see that more as a causation rather than a benefit.
I agree.
Okay,
That is, it's a source of pollution.
right.
And it's not like they're causing it.
I think he goes on to
What is it?
talk about, he believes that it's the responsibility of Spokane County to maintain water quality as one of their recreational waterways for safety of human health. I think that falls outside of our job here today, or in this assessment. Next paragraph talks about a number of operational changes that may be more productive than the way things are being done now. And I think, again, that's outside of the scope of what we're doing. The last paragraph talks about sewer and septic systems, kind of both being a cause and a potential solution to some of the issues. However, again, I think this is unrelated to our benefit ratio study. And that's the end of comments on 11:20.
Right.
What's the next one? 12:2.
Yep. That's what I've
So,
got.
Marianne, it appears to me that we spend money on water quality issues on the lake because we haven't put in a septic system. Is that right?
Well,
Is it that simple?
there's probably no, it's not that simple. There's quite a few other sources as well. There's the inlet, there's the shoreline development in general. There is the recycling of the nutrients that are already in the sediments. So it comes from multiple sources. I do think that, especially as the lake has grown, that the septic is definitely a contributor, but no one really has a good handle on what that percentage is. The best information we have is from that TMDL study, which gave the percentages, and I think we shared that.
There's a natural leaching also in the soils and down to the bedrock.
Right, yeah. And
Is the problem worse than has it continually gotten worse? Are there more deadly days that you don't open the lake and that kind of stuff?
Oh, we don't really have any good current information in terms of a complete study of contributions versus water quality here recently, at least since the TMDL, which was done in the mid 2000s. So.
Okay.
So that's kind of a hard question to answer, I guess, definitively anyway.
It's kind of irrelevant, I suppose, too. I mean, it's not it's a cause question, not a benefit question.
Okay, Brian, you want to continue?
Yeah, the next comment was submitted on 12/2 by Beth. And she starts out by saying, it's always entertaining to listen to your meetings, so I take that as a compliment, hopefully. Well, thank you, Beth.
Does that mean she likes our jokes?
I hope so. Hopefully it's entertaining in a good sense and not a bad sense. And talks about taxing parcels on contributions. And, I think we've covered that contributions are the same as causation, and we won't be basing our findings on that, only on benefits. And I think you go on to say, Beth, that waterfront parcels clearly enjoy numerous water quality benefits, such as direct access to the lake, which can be used at any time. And that's, I think we're in agreement that is definitely a benefit. But in the same sentence, the comments made, they're also the biggest contributors to lake pollution. So we'll have to separate that and make sure that we only consider benefits. Looks like Beth owns a watershed parcel, has a short gravel driveway, and is mostly level, and do not send anything into the lake. There's no view, no road, no stream, or any other amenities except for trees that are carefully tended. So why should they be taxed for anything? So please remember, the flood control district is based on benefits, and it's not a RID, ULID, or any other form of sewer or storm district. Okay. On 12/4, Lauren submitted another comment where several key issues are still not being addressed in his opinion. He believes the scope of work for us should be based on tangible benefits and not contributions or causes, which we agree. And that he quotes the scope of work, and that any motions or efforts by us to alter the basic premise of the district is not proper nor legal. So I think we've covered that, where those issues of a legal nature are being addressed, and will respond accordingly. He said if contributions are going to be used, that they need to be quantified and proven. Okay, well, we're not going to be using causation or contributions. So I think that's a non-issue at this point.
So, I think one thing that's going on here is that these are comments made in the past, and especially since the last executive session, we've kind of been steered down the narrow path. And the benefit thing has been resolved, but they don't know.
Well, some of these comments are older, like from last month, and since our last meetings, we've uncovered it. So well, I think we're rehashing some old news that's been covered, but I think we're going over it in detail just to make sure that we haven't missed anything.
You know, good summary.
On section 2, he goes over market value versus taxable value and whether or not current use properties are exempt. I think we've addressed that and getting legal opinion on that.
Sorry, are you finished? Are you on to the next set of comments or are you still on
I'm
Lawrence?
still looking at item 2.
Okay,
He has said that upland forestry property landowners are on board and have been worked with for many years to reduce runoff into Thompson and other creek and other stream sources to help to benefit water quality cleanup efforts, which is noted. And Newman Lake has greatly benefited from these efforts. And we can't argue that, and it's, you know, it's good to know. That benefit is different from the benefit of what the county or what the flood control district provides, but it is noted.
So it's dawned on me that it's technically not a benefit, it's just a reduction of cost.
Exactly. If another way to say it, I think, would be if they didn't have these better forestry practices, then the flood control district may have higher costs and needs to process the water. So it is a benefit, but it's not the benefits that we're looking at.
Correct.
And I think that that's about it on Lawrence. Okay. What's the next one?
1221.
Is that the last one?
Yep.
Okay. So on 1221, Lauren submitted another letter. It looks like it's addressed to Chad. And he's in the understanding that we, the Board of Appraisers, hadn't read comments submitted. And topics include benefits and causation. And he's still concerned about little historical perspective given that should prove useful, and that these comments are directed towards us, the Board of Appraisers. Talking about benefit classes being based on causation, which we've addressed. We're not doing that. If we base future appraisals on what happened many years ago, that could be problematic.
We aren't making any appraisals, are we?
No. And that there are legal issues, perhaps. And that the district is based on benefits, which we are. That's what we're looking at, are benefits to the property owners in the district from the operations of the flood control district. So there's a lot of comments in here about contributions and causation, and I think it's just maybe a timing thing. But it's clear that we're not going to be basing anything on causation.
I think we kind of stirred up the hornet's nest with that, I think.
Next one, Robert submitted comments and encouraged that the DOA is taking a serious review to try and solve the inequities. And thanked us for our current work. Chris submitted comments. That they support the concept of spreading the burden of the assessment to all landowners who contribute to the lake's health and water quality and who benefit from its health and water quality. So again, we can't consider the contributions to the lake health and water quality, but we can consider the benefit. We can't simply spread the burden without going through this benefit ratio based on the current law as we understand it. Next one is Ann on 110 submitted comments to the board chair of the Newman Lake Advisory Board. Perhaps that we're being obstructed from receiving information from residents based on their own personal gain and keeping taxes low.
Wait, read that again?
I'll just read it. I've heard that the board chair of the Newman Lake Advisory Board is obstructing you from receiving information from residents for her own personal gain and keeping her own taxes low. I believe that taxes should be based on the current valuation of the property. Since properties have increased in valuation significantly around the lake, it would behoove the county to recheck valuations. It's my understanding that there are some lakefront homes only paying $100 a year, yet they have high values. So this paragraph talks about a lot of things. One is the county assessment, and that's an assessor question. There's an inequity in a waterfront home paying $100. I think that's going to be addressed in a split parcel and averaging concept that we talked about quite a bit today. So I think these, these items are covered. I don't believe anybody is obstructing us from receiving any information unless there's something out there obvious that we
Well,
don't
we
have.
wouldn't know about it. If they were successful.
Yeah, so there's an issue on water quality and they believe the aerator is not sufficient to maintain the quality of the lake. Again, that's more of an operational issue and unrelated to our benefit analysis. So some solutions they suggest, go with more recent property evaluations. And that's an assessor role. The idea that it's based on benefits sounds unmeasurable, and it may be unmeasurable in their opinion, but it's what we have to go by. And it sounds like they feel that the lake owners have a bigger burden than everybody else for water quality, and believe that all owners should be responsible for cleanup.
She enjoys the flavor of the lake as it is. I wonder if that's a comment on taste.
Oh,
I don't think so.
there's some other options suggested, such as sewer and maybe ULID or LID or something like that. And that may be a viable solution, but I think it's outside of our scope of work. We would like another aerator, and ask that work be done to make Newman Lake a wonderful place to be. Lori Hess. Has a comment on how is it equitable when only 5% of the people are paying the whole assessment?
What, do you know what that means, Mary Ann?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said. Could you repeat?
The
They
first
asked,
sentence says,
how is it equitable if only 5% of the people are paying the whole assessment? From what you showed me about how much people were paying and how many property owners were paying different amounts, that seems like a logical impossibility. There's more than one person paying, or more than 70 people paying. No,
770 people are paying, which is more than 5% of the total.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure.
well, it's immaterial.
Yeah, I think you're right. The next sentence, if you're in a flood control district, it needs to be divided equally. And that may be Lori's opinion, but unfortunately, the benefit ratio is the law we need to go by. And that is different than what I interpret as being equal. Equal in this sense, it looks like everybody pays the same amount. I think our role again is to determine the benefit and the ratio that goes with that benefit, and that's where the assessment lies. She further states that she doesn't get to use the benefit of lakefront living when the water quality is poor. And that she paid for the system that isn't working and it's a health hazard. That's not 100% benefit in her opinion. And then why are lakefront homes being charged different assessments? I think we've addressed that. We're going to try to equalize that in the calculation.
So wait a minute. Based on what I've seen on the maps, all of the lakefront homes are being treated equally right now. The reason that the amount that each home is paying is different is because the assessor has valued them at different levels. It's not because one is at 100% contribution, another 30% contribution.
Plus the concept of excuse me, split parcels and averages gets thrown into that as well.
So there's talk about everyone paying the same amount. So if you took the annual expense and divided it between the 700, maybe some properties, that works out to $182 a person or a property. If you if you also ask all the people that aren't around the lake but are within the district, most of the land is out away from the lake. If you ask all of those people to pay, you could essentially divide it in half because there's about 1,800 people altogether. So somewhere around $90 a piece. And I mentioned that because someone in one of the earlier comments, someone thought that that equal number would be $25. it's more like $180.
She goes on to say that the full assessment needs to be divided equally. I think we just covered that, but, and that may be a valid, a valid way for this district to go, but for the purposes of what we're doing, we cannot do that as a board of appraisers under the current law. Kathy submitted some comments. Just, I guess, requesting fair and equitable assessments. Lynn talks about there's some resistance to our efforts by those people who will be negatively affected by the reassessment. And that some people have higher taxes than they wish. But the point is to make the adjustment so that it's fair and equitable for everyone. And that she supports the spreading the cost beyond the 5% that are currently paying now. And
Why does she think only 5% are paying?
I'm not sure. Like Gary said, I think it's a moot point. It's whatever the percentage is, it is. And
Yeah, but
the point here is that it can't simply be spread beyond a certain area for no reason. There has to be a benefit. And so I agree that with her saying having a wider base, the cost will be shared more, and the cost should be less per person in theory. But again, it's got to be tied to the benefits received, and those benefits need to be relative to a ratio study that runs from 0 to 100%. There has to be a 0, there has to be 100, and then whatever we determine in between as the percentage to go with it. So that's just the way it's written, and it's the way we have to do it.
so the more of these we listen to, the more and more I think that the core problem that people are having with it being unfair is with variations in the assessed values, which we legally or otherwise have no way to end to. We can't affect that. It's
No,
That's a function of the Board of Equalization, not the Board of Appraisers.
the Board of Appraisers can't do anything. I think if there's an assessment out there that is extremely off of where it should be, there's provisions in the law to talk to the assessor and have them reevaluate that particular property. And that's part of this process. But it's nothing that we drive as appraisers, Board of Appraisers.
Well, remember also that it's a common human tendency to exaggerate your problem to arrive at a predetermined solution.
Good point.
I guess I would really like to come up with something that's fair and equitable. And I guess I fear that if doing that means reassessing all our properties, that's a goal that we can't achieve because we can't reassess properties. If that's the core problem, is that the assessments aren't right by the county assessor.
I haven't gone through all of them. I've gone through quite a few of the assessor's records on these properties. and also driving by inspecting them, I don't see a big differential. It seemed pretty consistent to me.
Okay. Leanne submitted comments that the purpose of the flood control district is to address water quality and flood issues. Properties held in conservation trusts or having conservation easements should be exempt from district taxes because they're already contributing to the water quality improvement through their conservation efforts. Also, please consider the implications of every recommendation as it relates to the mission of the flood control district. Any recommendation should support improved water quality and flood control. Michael submits, stay on this equitable distribution problem. A small part of the community is paying a majority of the expense. The most expensive real estate is getting all the breaks. Not to mention the number of people using the lake for recreation who don't even pay taxes in the district. Time to fix it. I can't argue with that, but I think a lot of those items fall outside of our scope of work and may need to be addressed in a different forum. Bert submitted request for fair and equitable assessments, and that this is a public lake and the government needs to contribute to help upkeep of the water quality. These assessments need to be done fairly on tax value with no exceptions. Again, can't argue with, it being a public lake and whether or not the government needs to contribute. That falls outside of the scope of what we're doing. Assessments being done based on fairness, that is what we're doing. So hopefully our results will be based on that or reflect that. Barbara had comments.
I don't see anything new in that one.
No, I don't either.
It's pretty much a repeat of several of them we go over.
I think there's a comment in here that there are a lot of people who visit the lake, and perhaps they should, in some manner, help pay for the costs of the system again, but that's outside of our scope of work. Dennis submitted another couple pages of comments.
Most of us talked about the split parcel
Yeah,
situation, and he's encouraging us to pursue the separate valuation of split parcels.
yeah, and I think we've covered that.
Yeah. And he talks about some alternative septic systems. Again, that's talking about causation, which is not part of our function.
There was a concern that we're not meeting with community members. And I think ample opportunity has been provided to testify in one of the meetings or submit written comments. And, we've gone through those today. I think moving forward, we'd still encourage people to make comments as they see fit. But it doesn't sound like we're going to be meeting with directly with community members or the board.
I know where the 5% came from. It's acreage.
Is it acreage?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 5% of the district acreage. He makes a comment that he believes it's a benefit of allowing unmitigated stormwater runoff in the watershed. And I don't know if that is a benefit or a causation.
Stormwater runoff doesn't bring anything good.
So, yeah, I think that needs to be analyzed a little bit further. I guess I made a comment in December that newer septic systems were built to a new criterion. And I guess my comments there were, if a new septic system is being put in, the theory is it must be permitted. And the rules and regulations for permits over time, I believe, would account for cleaner and safer septic systems. And to some degree, as new systems get put in, the runoff would be less from those systems, I guess is what my findings are. Have I checked that? No, but it's similar to building permits, where building permits get more restrictive over time and homes that are built are safer, and it's just basic theory that septic systems would get safer as well. We're not going to go backwards with permitting old septic systems that allow direct runoff into the lake. At least not in my county.
So as when I have my developer's hat on, I've had experience with this, and septic systems have changed. And it used to be that you could build a gravity system, and then it got to be to where you had to have mound systems, and now you have to have pressurized systems. And each one of these systems is incrementally better at doing its job. So I think Brian's completely right, that the requirements are more stringent than they used to be.
It may not make a huge impact on the nutrients that run into the lake. I'm just making a statement that things should be getting better as old septic systems fail and new septic systems are put in. That's all I meant by this. Kimball and Elaine submitted comments, talk about being fair and equitable, and include such things as assessments being based on market value for all parcels, which is under consideration, the split parcel concept, which we're talking about, and the exemptions of or deferrals because of forestry and ag designations. These items are all been covered at length in today's meeting, and we'll be taking those into consideration. They say that they'd like to see the benefit maps reevaluated so that the benefits are equal among the parcels within the district. I'm not sure that we can do that,
But that means eliminating the maps, essentially.
it could. But we will definitely be reevaluating the benefit maps. Talks about some reimbursements I think that falls outside of our scope of work, going back after split parcel calculations. Calculations of assessments for the district, they believe should be performed by the assessor's office rather than public works. That's up to the flood control district and the advisory board to decide, not us. Just as long as the calculation is done correctly. I don't think it really matters who does it. Reevaluate the meaning of benefit to include those in the district who pay nothing, yet are located in the flood zone and along the drainages and creeks, who have the benefit and privilege of dumping their water into the lake. Again, I think this comes back to causation, and I don't see a benefit to that. Do you guys?
No,
I guess I would just like to restate something that I know all three of us believe. And that is that causation is a real issue, but that we are not allowed to consider it. We have to do it based on benefit. That's one thing that came out of the legal department in the last executive session. It was the last session, wasn't it? It's got to be so much time between sessions.
On January 12th, Stephanie submitted comments that fair and equitable is a loaded wording for a petition. She understands that I think the district could use more money for water projects. But she argues that the issue at hand is the added financial burden put on forest and farm owners. And I those two sentences don't really go together. This process is not driving the budget for the district. It's only splitting the pie on the cost or the operations cost of flood control and water quality. So if that's what's intended here, I don't think that's exactly correct. There's a statement on contribution of water quality issues, but also doing some positive things that help the ecosystem. And looking at other things like ecosystem and grasslands and benefits that the forest provide. Can't argue that those things do provide benefits to the area, but it's not the benefits from the district, and it's outside of the BOA's scope of work. I think the last comment, or two more. Mark endorses fair and equitable assessments, spreading the cost of water beyond 5% of the district acreage. And yeah,
Maybe it's district acreage.
that's what Gary
Maybe
said
that's where the 5% comes from.
when you walked out. And we can't disagree with that as long as there's a tangible benefit tied with spreading out a tangible benefit with including more properties.
This is almost like it's a country boy fighting a city boy.
The last comment Stephen submitted was the the same comment, supporting spreading out the cost of water quality program beyond 5% of the district acreage. So that's all the comments that I have. Is that it, Gary?
That's all I have.
Now you have, Mary Ann?
Are we gonna have an executive session?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, that's all the comments that we had. So,
Okay.
I do have a question on these comments. I think initially, back at the beginning, that you guys had decided not to post the individual comments. However, we've kind of gone through them individually today, and I do have a request for that. What do you guys want us to post them out on the website in our document section? Or continue to, just kind of leave it at what we did today?
Why not post it?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
I don't see any reason not to post it.
Okay,
Unless you're concerned about, somebody having a privacy issue, which might be valid, they really want their comments released, although the question is there, do you want a response on them? But that's the reason I mentioned in the beginning, only using first names. But I got a feeling that probably a first name gives away the last name.
well, I can get Reese's take on it too. Maybe
I would suggest that, yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
I will take a look at that right away.
Okay. Thanks, Reese.
Okay. Have you guys been to the website to see where the comments are posted on the website?
No,
I haven't either. Can you
There-
show on the website where people are posting things?
No,
Are
yeah,
they-
I'll go out to the web. So we're not posting them right now. Any of the comments, they have a form that they can fill out to submit them. I can,
That's
happy to
okay.
bring
I
up the
guess-
website.
Let me ask this. So they submit the form, and then that form gets turned into these emails, which get emailed to us.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. When
And
they submit it turns into an email to our staff,
Okay,
and then they compile. Jessica actually compiles them all into a
and all the comments
one
that they
document.
submitted have been provided to us. There's none out there. There are no comments out there that have not been provided to us.
Correct.
Okay.
okay,
When this is recorded, is it recorded audio and video?
I think so. Ron, can you?
Video.
Video as well? Okay. Then in a sense, and again, I'll confirm this, but in a sense, by reviewing these and having them shown on the video, they've kind of been released, if you will, already for public consumption. But I again will verify that.
Was there what else was on the agenda?
I wanted to see where you guys are as far as citing, editing, flood control, and water quality issues in the areas that you were assigned. I've gone through and made some more research to do, but on the ground research I think I've done.
So I have a question. Can we go to an executive session and then come back and continue with this? Or do we need to work our way, do everything we're going to do and then break for an executive session?
Well, the way the agenda is right now, I'm probably not the best one to answer that though. Maybe Reese or Ron, could you answer that question?
Yeah, practice is even you can break for an executive session and come back, but it's a technical matter with the setup, trying to get in and out, could create a problem. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You know, we really need an executive session. I don't have any questions for the attorney.
I do.
You do, okay? We will,
Can we go through the maps without asking the question?
yes.
We can.
Okay.
I'm just impetuous.
What do you want to talk about first? Water quality or flood?
Let's talk about flood.
So I had a question on, is this, it's hard to tell. I guess it's right at Thompson Creek. So I think my district went from Thompson Creek west.
Correct.
And there's this benefit area here for flood control. And I guess maybe today it got answered, but if you think of the lake as a basin, and it were just to flood on its own, we established at the south end of the lake it would go to a certain point. And we have to assume that at the end of this lake, it would also go to a certain point. And we looked at an elevation line here that this was about where it would naturally flood from just the lake. So I guess by controlling the lake level to this area, the difference between here and here would be the benefit of the flood control. Is that how you guys see it?
Yeah.
So I would agree with this part of it. Conceptually, it took me a while to figure that out. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with the actual ratio, but there is some benefit there in that area.
I think this is the part that's easiest to make decisions on. That's very cut and dry.
And in going around the lake, I think it's clear that the waterfront parcels do enjoy a benefit from flood control in that the lake level is regulated and not going up and down, causing erosion or other things. So there is a benefit to those waterfront parcels as you go around the lake. The secondary parcels in the red zone, I struggle a little bit with this on flood control, in that what is the 10% benefit or whatever benefit that they're receiving from flood control? These parcels in the Peninsula Drive area are situated well above the flood level. And maybe some of the lower, up by Peninsula Drive is well above that area, but maybe some of the parcels that are further down, closer to the waterfront parcels, are closer to the flood. But what do you think the benefit is to those parcels?
Well, that's where we parked, down there in that area.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading it right. And
I actually have wrestled with that greatly.
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly, I think it ought to be blue, because the elevation was not that big a difference.
Well, on Peninsula Drive, it's somewhere that road is about 100 feet or more above the level of the lake. It's, I mean, it's.
Okay,
way
I'm
up.
thinking about down there where the
Yeah,
pump station was. Okay,
correct. That's a different
yeah.
area, but this area, that Peninsula Drive runs down a river.
Did we lose them?
Yeah, I believe we did.